Before you do anything else, before you scroll away, before you let another second pass, I need you to promise me just one thing. Don't skip this. Not because I want your attention. Not because I'm asking for sympathy. But because what you're about to hear may awaken emotions you buried a long time ago. There are moments in life that seem completely ordinary, until years later, when we realize they changed everything. Maybe this is one of those moments. Maybe that's the reason this message appeared in front of you today. Out of millions of videos, millions of stories, millions of voices, somehow, you found this one. Coincidence? Perhaps. Or perhaps life has a strange way of bringing people exactly what they need when they need it the most. Right now, I want you to do something very simple. Close your eyes for just a moment. Think about the one person whose memory still lingers somewhere deep inside your heart. Don't force it. The first face that appears. The first smile. The first pair of eyes. The first name that quietly enters your mind. Hold on to that feeling. Because this story begins there. Maybe you haven't spoken in weeks. Maybe months. Maybe years. Maybe circumstances separated you. Maybe distance did. Maybe pride. Maybe misunderstandings. Or maybe neither of you ever found the courage to say what your hearts had been screaming all along. Whatever happened. One thing is certain. Some feelings never truly disappear. They don't vanish because time passes. They don't disappear because people pretend to move on. They simply become quieter. Hidden beneath responsibilities. Buried under busy schedules. Covered by fake smiles. Until one unexpected moment. When they come rushing back stronger than ever. And today, that moment might have arrived. Because if you're hearing these words right now, someone, somewhere, wishes they had one more chance to speak to you. One more chance to explain. One more chance to apologize. One more chance to tell you everything they should have said long ago. Imagine receiving a letter from someone you thought had forgotten you. Imagine opening it with shaking hands. Imagine reading the very first line. I've been trying to find the courage to tell you this for so long. Would you keep reading? Or would fear make you close the letter before discovering the truth? Most people spend their entire lives waiting for answers. Waiting for closure. Waiting for someone to finally explain why everything changed. Some never receive those answers. Some never hear the words they spent years hoping for. But tonight, this story is different. Tonight, silence finally breaks. If you've ever loved someone with all your heart, if you've ever stayed awake wondering whether they were thinking about you too, if you've ever replayed old conversations in your mind, searching for something you missed, then don't leave. Because every sentence from this point onward was written for hearts that have carried questions longer than they deserved. There are things people never admit out loud. They'll say they're fine. They'll laugh in front of friends. They'll post pictures that make life look perfect. But deep inside, some are still waiting for one message. One phone call. One simple sentence. I'm sorry. I miss you. I never stopped caring. 3 short sentences. Yet they hold enough power to heal years of silence. The person in this story knows that feeling better than anyone. For a very long time. They convinced themselves that staying silent was the right decision. They believed they were protecting you. Protecting themselves. Protecting whatever remained of the memories you shared. But silence has a cruel habit. It grows heavier every day. At first, it feels harmless. Then it becomes regret. Then guilt. Then sleepless nights. Then countless what-if questions that never stop echoing inside your mind. What if I had called? What if I had stayed? What if I had been honest? What if I had fought harder? What if I had simply told them how much they truly meant to me? Those questions followed them everywhere. Every sunrise. Every sunset. Every birthday. Every holiday. Every familiar song. Every place that once held laughter. Nothing felt the same anymore. Because every beautiful memory carried your shadow with it. And no matter how far they tried to run, their heart always found its way back to you. They met new people. They smiled. They learned to survive. Life continued moving forward. But there was one thing life could never replace. You. Not because you were perfect. No one is. Not because your relationship never had problems. Every relationship does. But because some people leave fingerprints on our souls that time simply cannot erase. Years can pass. Entire chapters of life can change. Yet one memory. One perfume. One old photograph. One familiar melody. Can instantly transport us back to a moment we thought we'd forgotten forever. That's the strange thing about love. Real love doesn't always disappear. Sometimes. It simply waits. Quietly. Patiently. Hidden beneath everything else. Waiting for the day when two hearts are finally brave enough to tell the truth. And perhaps that day is today. Because there is something that has remained unsaid for far too long. A truth locked behind fear. A confession buried beneath pride. Words that have been repeated thousands of times inside one person's mind. But never spoken aloud. Until now. So if you're still here. If you're still listening. Please don't leave before the story reaches its end. Because what comes next isn't just another love story. It's a confession that took years to find its voice. It's a confession that took years to find its voice. For the longest time, I believed that keeping my feelings hidden was the kindest thing I could do. I told myself you were happier without me. I convinced myself that reopening old memories would only bring pain. So I stayed silent, even when every part of me wanted to reach out. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Months quietly turned into years. The world around me kept changing. Seasons came and went. People entered my life and left again. New opportunities appeared. New places, new faces, new experiences, yet somehow, every new beginning carried a reminder of something unfinished. Of someone unfinished. You. I often wondered whether you had forgotten the little things. The way we laughed over the smallest jokes. The conversations that lasted until sunrise because neither of us wanted to say goodbye. The dreams we shared so confidently, believing nothing could ever separate us. At the time, those moments felt ordinary. Now they feel priceless. Memory has a strange way of preserving what the heart refuses to lose. It doesn't remember every single day. It remembers the smile that made everything feel lighter. The words that brought comfort during the darkest nights. The quiet moments when no one needed to speak because simply being together was enough. Those memories stayed with me. Not as chains holding me back, but as gentle reminders of what genuine connection feels like. There were countless times I almost sent you a message. My fingers would hover over the keyboard. I'd type a few words. Delete them. Type them again. Delete them once more. How do you begin a conversation after so much silence? How do you explain years of unanswered questions in a single message? How do you tell someone that they never truly left your heart? There never seemed to be a perfect moment. So I waited. And the longer I waited, the more impossible that first message felt. Perhaps you've experienced something similar. Perhaps there is someone you've wanted to talk to but never found the courage. Not because you didn't care. Because you cared too much. Sometimes fear doesn't come from rejection. Sometimes it comes from hope. Hope that things might still be different. Hope that the person on the other side still remembers. Hope that the story isn't completely over. Whether that hope is fulfilled or not, one truth remains. Life becomes lighter when we stop letting fear speak louder than honesty. Some conversations don't change the past. But they can change the future. And sometimes, that's enough. And sometimes, that's enough. The hardest lesson I ever learned was this. Time doesn't always heal what silence refuses to touch. People often say that if something is meant to be, it will find its way back. I used to believe that was enough. I believed destiny would do all the work. That one day our paths would naturally cross again. That somehow, without either of us trying, everything would fall back into place. But life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes destiny opens a door. And waits. It waits for someone to be brave enough to walk through it. For years, I wasn't brave. I kept telling myself there would always be another tomorrow. Another chance. Another conversation. Another opportunity to explain everything. Until one ordinary morning changed the way I looked at life forever. I saw someone saying goodbye to a person they loved. Not because they wanted to. Not because they had fallen out of love. But because life had given them no more time. Watching that moment made something inside me break. It reminded me how fragile every relationship truly is. We spend so much time assuming people know how we feel. Assuming there will always be another birthday. Another holiday. Another phone call. Another, I'll tell them tomorrow. But tomorrow is a promise no one can make. That realization stayed with me. It followed me home. It sat beside me in the silence of my room. And for the first time in years, I stopped running from my own heart. I asked myself one simple question. If today were my last chance to speak, what would I regret leaving unsaid? The answer came immediately. I would regret never thanking you. Thank you. For every conversation that made difficult days feel lighter. For believing in me when I struggled to believe in myself. For teaching me that kindness can exist even in a complicated world. For reminding me that love isn't measured by perfect moments, but by the willingness to stay through imperfect ones. Even though our story changed. Those memories never lost their value. People often think gratitude only belongs to happy endings. I don't believe that anymore. Sometimes the people who change us the most are the ones who don't stay forever. They leave behind lessons that quietly shape every chapter that follows. Because of you, I became more patient, more understanding, more aware of how precious genuine connections really are. You may never realize how much of who I became was influenced by knowing you. And perhaps that's okay. Not every truth needs applause. Some truths simply deserve to be spoken. There was a time when I blamed both of us for everything that happened. I replayed every argument, every misunderstanding, every missed opportunity, searching for someone to blame. Eventually, I realized blame changes nothing. Understanding changes everything. We were two imperfect people trying to navigate life with imperfect knowledge. We made mistakes. We misunderstood each other. We reacted instead of listening. We let fear speak where honesty should have. None of that makes either of us villains. It simply makes us human. If I've learned anything since then, it's that love is rarely destroyed by one dramatic moment. More often, it's worn down by tiny silences, by postponed conversations, by unsent messages, by words that remain trapped behind pride. Those little moments seem insignificant at the time, until one day you realize they built a wall neither person intended to create. If I could go back, I wouldn't pretend to be stronger than I felt. I wouldn't hide my fears behind silence. I wouldn't assume you could read the emotions I never expressed. I would simply tell the truth. Even if my voice shook. Even if I didn't know how the story would end. Because honesty may not guarantee the ending we hope for, but it frees us from carrying unnecessary regret. And perhaps that is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. As I look back now, I don't wish to rewrite our story. Every joyful memory, every misunderstanding, every goodbye, every lesson, they all became part of the person I am today. And while I cannot change the past, I can choose what I carry forward. I choose gratitude over resentment, understanding over blame, hope over fear. Because no matter how complicated life becomes, the people who truly touch our hearts deserve to be remembered with kindness. Maybe that's the real reason this story needed to be told. Not to change yesterday, but to remind us that today still belongs to us. And as long as today exists, there is always an opportunity to choose honesty, compassion, and courage over silence. There is always an opportunity to choose honesty, compassion, and courage over silence. For a long time, I thought courage meant never looking back. I thought moving on meant pretending that certain memories never existed. I smiled when people expected me to smile. I laughed when everyone else laughed. I told people I was doing fine. And after saying it enough times, I almost believed it myself. But the heart has a quiet voice. It doesn't argue. It doesn't demand attention. It simply waits. Then one ordinary evening, without any warning, I found an old photograph tucked inside a book I hadn't opened in years. The edges had faded. The colors weren't as bright as they once were. Yet the memory behind that photograph was still as clear as the day it happened. I remembered the weather. I remembered the sound of your laughter. I remembered how easy life felt in that moment. Back then, neither of us knew how precious that ordinary day would become. Isn't that how life always works? We spend so much time chasing extraordinary moments that we fail to notice the miracles hidden inside ordinary ones. A simple conversation. A shared meal. A walk without a destination. A smile that quietly says, "I'm glad you're here." Those are the moments that stay with us forever. Not because they were perfect, but because they were real. I used to wonder whether you ever thought about those days too. Did certain songs still remind you of me? Did familiar places ever make you stop for a second? Did my name ever cross your mind unexpectedly? I'll probably never know. And strangely, I've made peace with that. Because love isn't always about receiving answers. Sometimes it's about accepting that some questions may remain unanswered, while still appreciating everything the journey gave us. That's when I finally understood something that had taken years to learn. Real love isn't measured by how long two people stay together. It's measured by how deeply they change each other. Some people stay for decades and leave no lasting impact. Others stay for only a short chapter, yet change the entire story of your life. You were one of those chapters. Not a mistake. Not a regret. A chapter that taught me how powerful kindness can be. A chapter that taught me to value honesty before it's too late. A chapter that reminded me never to assume people already know how much they mean to me. Since then, I've tried to live differently. When someone matters to me, I tell them. When I'm grateful, I say thank you. When I'm wrong, I apologize. Because I've learned that pride protects our ego for a moment. But honesty protects our peace for a lifetime. If there's one thing I hope anyone listening to this story remembers, it's this. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Perfect moments rarely arrive. The people you love don't need perfect words. They need genuine ones. A sincere message. A heartfelt conversation. A simple reminder that they matter. Sometimes, those small acts become the memories people carry for the rest of their lives. And perhaps, that is how love continues to exist. Not through grand promises. Not through dramatic speeches. But through small moments of truth, shared before silence has the chance to replace them. As I close this chapter, I no longer carry the weight of everything left unsaid. Not because the past changed, but because I finally found the courage to be honest with my own heart. And that honesty has brought me something I searched for during countless sleepless nights. Peace. A quiet, gentle peace that whispers. Whatever was real will always have meaning. Maybe that's the message this story was always meant to leave behind. Maybe that's the message this story was always meant to leave behind. Not every story is meant to end with two people finding their way back to each other. Some stories exist to remind us that love is never wasted. Every kind word. Every sacrifice. Every late-night conversation. Every promise that was made with a sincere heart. None of it disappears. It becomes part of who we are. And even if the world never sees those moments, our hearts remember. As I stand here today, looking back at everything we've been through, I no longer ask, why did this happen? Instead, I ask something completely different. What did this experience teach me? It taught me that love without honesty slowly fades into misunderstanding. It taught me that assumptions can destroy what conversations could have saved. It taught me that saying, "I'm fine," is often the biggest lie a hurting heart tells. Most importantly, it taught me that tomorrow is never guaranteed. That's why, if there's someone in your life who truly matters, don't wait for the perfect occasion to remind them. Tell them today. Not because you're afraid of losing them, but because appreciation should never depend on fear. It should become a habit. A way of living. Sometimes we become so busy building a future that we forget to appreciate the people walking beside us in the present. We chase success. We chase recognition. We chase bigger dreams. Yet the greatest treasures are often the people quietly supporting us while we chase everything else. Their encouragement. Their patience. Their belief in us. Those things cannot be replaced. And one day, when life slows down, we finally understand that those moments were the real wealth all along. If I could leave you with one final thought, it would be this. Never let your heart become a prison for words that deserve to be spoken. If you're thankful, say it. If you're sorry, say it. If someone has changed your life for the better, let them know. Not because you're expecting something in return, but because sincere words have the power to heal both the person who speaks them and the person who hears them. For years, I believed strength meant hiding my emotions. Now I know true strength looks very different. It looks like choosing kindness when anger feels easier. It looks like choosing forgiveness when resentment feels justified. It looks like choosing honesty even when your voice trembles. Those choices aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of courage. Real courage. And maybe that's the lesson hidden inside every meaningful relationship. Not that everything lasts forever, but that every genuine connection leaves us wiser than before. As this story comes to a close, I don't ask you to look back with regret. I ask you to look forward with intention. Appreciate the people who are still beside you. Listen a little longer. Forgive a little sooner. Love a little more openly. Because one heartfelt conversation today can prevent years of silence tomorrow. Life moves quickly. Faster than any of us expect. The moments we keep postponing have a way of disappearing before we realize they were our last chance. So don't wait for life to force you into saying what your heart already knows. Speak with kindness. Live with gratitude. And never underestimate the impact of a single honest conversation. Perhaps that's how broken bridges begin to heal. Perhaps that's how old wounds begin to fade. And perhaps that's how hearts finally find peace. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If these words reminded you of someone who has made a difference in your life, don't let the feeling pass by unnoticed. Sometimes, the smallest message sent with sincerity becomes the brightest light in someone else's day. And no matter where your own journey leads from here, may you always have the courage to choose love over fear, truth over silence, and hope over regret. Because in the end, those are the choices that become the stories worth remembering. But every story does not truly end on the last page. Some stories continue to live inside us long after the final words have been spoken. Some people walk away from our lives, but the feelings, lessons, and memories they leave behind remain with us forever. And sometimes, the greatest beginning happens exactly where we thought everything had already ended. That was the moment I finally understood something important. Maybe I wasn't supposed to change the past. Maybe I was supposed to accept it. Because not every connection enters our life to stay forever. Some connections come into our lives to transform us. They teach us how to value people before it's too late. They teach us that feelings should not always remain hidden behind fear. And they remind us that a person's true impact is not measured by what they own, but by what they leave behind in someone else's heart. For years, I believed that if I got one more chance, I would fix everything. I would choose different words. I would make different decisions. I would hold on to every moment more carefully. But with time, I learned something deeper. Not everything that breaks needs to be repaired. Sometimes, certain things need to be accepted with love and respect. Because life does not always follow the path we imagine. Sometimes two people can care about each other deeply and still find themselves walking in different directions. Sometimes circumstances become stronger than intentions. Sometimes timing becomes the biggest challenge. But that does not mean the connection was meaningless. It does not mean the memories were fake. It does not mean the emotions were never real. Some feelings may never reach the destination we dreamed about. Yet the journey itself can still be beautiful. I learned that losing someone doesn't only hurt because they are no longer beside us. It hurts because a part of our own story seems to disappear with them. The version of ourselves that existed during those moments. The person who laughed more freely. The person who believed more easily. The person who looked at the future with endless hope. But slowly, I discovered another truth. Losing someone should never mean losing yourself. Holding on to memories is beautiful. But forgetting your own worth is not. Real love does not destroy us. It teaches us. It makes us stronger. It helps us understand ourselves in ways we never expected. And that was the biggest change. For a long time, I believed my happiness depended on someone returning. I thought peace would only come when everything went back to the way it was. But eventually, I understood. My happiness was never controlled by another person. My peace was never dependent on another person's decision. My future was always waiting for me to create it. That realization changed everything. I started appreciating the people who were still present. I started noticing the small blessings I had ignored. I started understanding that life was still offering new chapters. New memories. New reasons to smile. Still, some memories will always remain special. Some people will always hold a meaningful place in our hearts. Some moments will always bring a quiet smile whenever we remember them. And maybe that's okay. Because not everything beautiful has to last forever to have value. Some things come into our lives for a short time, but leave an impact that lasts forever. That is the magic of human connections. They change us. They shape us. They help us become better versions of ourselves. And when we look back after years have passed, we don't always see the pain anymore. We see the growth. We see the lessons. We see the person we became because of everything we experienced. And maybe someday, when life opens a new chapter, we will look back and say, that chapter didn't destroy me. It created me. Because the greatest victory is not making the past return. The greatest victory is teaching your heart how to smile again. Respecting where you've been. Accepting what happened. And moving forward with hope for everything that is still waiting ahead. and moving forward with hope for everything that is still waiting ahead. Because life has a beautiful way of surprising us when we least expect it. Sometimes, after a difficult chapter, we believe the best moments are already behind us. We look at the past and think, that was the happiest I will ever be. But life has a way of proving us wrong. It reminds us that happiness is not limited to one person, one place, or one moment. There are still new mornings waiting. New conversations waiting. New memories waiting to be created. The heart has an incredible ability to heal. Not by forgetting, but by understanding. Not by erasing the past, but by making peace with it. For a long time, I carried questions that had no answers. I wondered why certain things happened the way they did. I wondered why some promises could not be kept. I wondered why two people who once felt so close could become strangers. But eventually, I stopped searching for someone to blame. Because sometimes there is no villain in a story. Sometimes there are just two people trying their best while carrying their own fears, struggles, and dreams. We all make mistakes. We all have moments when we don't say the right words. We all have times when we realize something was important only after it has changed. That is part of being human. The important thing is not whether we made mistakes. The important thing is whether we learned from them. Whether we became kinder. Whether we became wiser. Whether we became someone who would handle love differently if given another chance. And maybe that is the true meaning of growth. Not becoming someone who never gets hurt, but becoming someone who knows how to heal. Someone who can look at old memories without allowing them to control the present. Someone who can appreciate what was beautiful without being trapped in what is gone. Because the past is a teacher. It is not a prison. Every experience leaves something behind. A lesson. A strength. A new understanding. And sometimes, the most painful moments create the strongest versions of ourselves. The person I am today exists because of everything I experienced. The happiness. The sadness. The mistakes. The lessons. All of it became a part of my journey. And now, instead of asking why something ended, I ask myself, what did it give me? What did that chapter teach me? What strength did I discover? What kind of person did I become because of it? Those questions changed my perspective completely. Because life is not only about holding on to things. Sometimes life is also about learning how to let go with gratitude. Gratitude for the laughter. Gratitude for the lessons. Gratitude for the moments that once made us happy. Even if they didn't last forever. There is a certain beauty in knowing that something was real. A genuine connection. A meaningful conversation. A moment when two people understood each other without needing many words. Those moments are gifts. And gifts do not lose their value just because time passes. They remain precious because they happened. So if you ever find yourself thinking about someone from your past, don't immediately think of it as sadness. Sometimes remembering someone is simply your heart appreciating a chapter that mattered. Sometimes a memory appears not to hurt you, but to remind you of how deeply you are capable of caring. And that is something beautiful. Because a heart that has loved deeply is a heart that has truly lived. The journey ahead may look uncertain. There may still be questions. There may still be moments when memories return unexpectedly. But there is also hope. Hope for new beginnings. Hope for unexpected happiness. Hope for a future that can be even more meaningful than the past. Because every ending carries the possibility of a new beginning. And sometimes, the person we are becoming is the greatest story we will ever create. The person we are becoming is the greatest story we will ever create. Because at the end of every journey, we discover something powerful. We were never only defined by who stayed. We were also shaped by who inspired us, who challenged us, and who helped us understand ourselves better. Every person we meet leaves behind a lesson. Some teach us how to love. Some teach us how to forgive. Some teach us how strong we can become when life doesn't go according to our plans. And every lesson becomes a small piece of the person we are today. Looking back now, I no longer see the past as something I lost. I see it as something that helped me grow. The moments I once wished I could change became the moments that changed me. The pain I once wanted to escape became the strength I carry today. The unanswered questions that once kept me awake became reminders that sometimes life does not give us all the answers immediately. Sometimes, understanding comes with time. Sometimes, healing happens quietly. Sometimes, the heart finds peace when it finally stops fighting against what it cannot change. And that peace is a beautiful thing. Because peace does not mean we forgot. It does not mean the memories disappeared. It simply means we learned how to carry them without letting them hurt us. We learned how to smile at the past while still walking toward the future. And maybe that is the most important lesson of all. Life will always bring changes. People will come and go. Chapters will begin and end. But our ability to love, to hope, and to start again will always remain. So never believe that one ending means your story is over. A closed door can lead you toward another path. A goodbye can create space for a new hello. A difficult chapter can prepare you for a beautiful one. Keep your heart open. Keep believing in the possibility of better days. Keep becoming the person you were always meant to be. Because somewhere ahead, there are moments you haven't experienced yet. There are smiles you haven't shared yet. There are memories you haven't created yet. The future still has surprises waiting for you. And when you finally reach those moments, you will look back and understand why everything happened the way it did. You will realize that every challenge, every disappointment, and every unexpected turn was quietly guiding you toward growth. So don't let yesterday steal the beauty of today. Don't let old wounds prevent new. Don't let fear stop you from experiencing the love, joy, and opportunities that are still waiting. Your story is not finished. This is only one chapter. There are many more pages left to write. Pages filled with courage. Pages filled with hope. Pages filled with moments that will remind you how beautiful life can be. And maybe one day, you will look back at everything you survived and smile. Not because it was easy, but because you made it through. You became stronger. You became wiser. You became someone who understands the true value of love and life. That is the greatest ending of any story. Not finding perfection. Not avoiding pain. But finding yourself again. And choosing to move forward with a heart full of gratitude, hope, and courage. Because the most beautiful chapters are often the ones we haven't written yet.